BGMC. The biblical truth lives here.
The ancient Hebrew scriptures foretold of the Anointed One, Yeshua HaMashiach. The Messiah Yeshua came to call the people back to the truth of His word and to follow that righteous path. Yeshua then called Jewish men to be His disciples, and after His death and resurrection, those Jewish men told the world about the Jewish Messiah. Now, after 2,000 years, Beth Goyim Messianic Congregation has that same calling of those Jewish men, telling all people, both Jew and Gentile, about the proper ancient path, teaching the Route 66 King's Highway from Genesis through to Revelation, and how you need and can get back to the proper roots of the faith and a closer walk with God. Now, let's hear the message.
Let's go get a blessing.
Vamos a recibir una bendición.
This is the Citygate Messianic Bible Study.
Y este es el estudio bíblico del portón de la ciudad.
You can always find us on our own streaming service, yeshuatube.org.
Y siempre puedes encontrar esto en nuestra propia transmisión que tenemos en YeshuaTube.
We're Beth Goyim Messianic Congregation, where Jew and Gentile worship Yeshua the Messiah as one people.
Y somos Beth Goyim, el Ministerio Mesiánico Internacional, donde judío y gentil adoramos al Eterno como un solo pueblo.
We're located at 800 West 3rd Avenue Extension in Lexington, North Carolina.
Y estamos localizados en la 800 West Extensión, Tercera Avenida de Lexington, Carolina del Norte.
And come on down any Shabbat, that Saturday, to be with us, to worship Yeshua the Messiah as one people.
Y ven a acompañarnos todos los Shabbat a adorar al Eterno y junto a Yeshua HaMashiach en la congregación.
And this is the Citygate Messianic Bible Study.
Y este es el estudio bíblico del portón de la ciudad.
We're studying the laws of God. This is part number 24 of the 613 commandments.
Y esta es la parte, you say 24, Raf?
24.
La parte 24 del estudio de las 613 leyes.
Okay, what we're doing in this particular study
Y lo que estamos haciendo en este estudio en particular
is showing you the Torah law
es que estamos mostrando la ley en la Torah
and then where it is found in the Brit HaDasha, in the New Testament.
y estamos haciendo el enlace de dónde se encuentra en el Brit HaDasha, el Nuevo Testamento.
Okay, so because many people say that the law is no longer valid,
Muchas personas dicen que la ley ya no es válida.
then why would you find it throughout the whole New Testament?
Entonces, ¿por qué se encuentra en todo lo que es el Nuevo Testamento?
Okay, so if you're in your Bibles, turn to Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 24.
Si tienes una Biblia o puedes anotar, vamos a leer todos Deuteronomio 24.
God's law is broken down into 34 categories.
Y todas las categorías de la ley son divididas en 34 categorías.
And we're in category number 12, business practices.
Y esa es la categoría 12 y se llama prácticas de negocios.
So we're in Deuteronomy 24, verse 11 through 13.
Estamos leyendo en Deuteronomio 24 del versículo 11 al 13.
We talked about this one a little bit last week.
Y iniciamos de hablar sobre esto un poquito la semana pasada.
Okay, so let's go over the law.
Vamos a ver la ley.
You must stand outside and the borrower will bring the collateral outside you. If he is poor, you are not to go to bed with what he gave as collateral in your possession. Rather, you must restore the pledge. It must You must restore the pledge item at sunset. Then he will go to sleep wearing his garment and bless you. This will be an upright deed of yours before Yehovah your Elohim. Okay, the law that we're talking about is in verse 12.
Y la ley esta en particular, la cual estamos hablando, está en el versículo 12.
Returning the collateral that you've been given.
Y sería retornar la posesión de la otra persona, devolvérsela.
Because the person is giving it to you because he's poor.
Y él realmente es pobre, o sea que no tiene, debería de devolvérsela así.
And you're able to lend him because you're not poor.
Y pues tienes la facultad de rentársela, y es porque tú tienes con qué.
So the Lord Jehovah is saying in verse number 12,
Y el Eterno dice en el versículo 12,
you don't really need to hold on to that item overnight.
realmente no necesitas quedarte con eso toda la noche.
I also remember in the times of the Bible and actually in some places in the world today,
Y recuérdense que en los tiempos bíblicos y también en tiempos en algunos lugares en este tiempo,
people got paid every day.
hay personas que se le pagaba diariamente.
I think that would probably be good for some people, but not so good for some people.
Y creo que sería muy bien para algunas personas y no para otras.
Because a lot of times when people get money, and they tend not to put it aside for the rent.
Muchas veces cuando las personas tienen el dinero así a diario, no separan lo que deben para la renta, por ejemplo.
But in God's laws, you are to be paid every day.
Y de acuerdo a las escrituras, en la ley del Eterno, debes de ser recompensado diariamente.
All right, so let's read the law one more time and then go see where it's found in the Brit HaDasha.
Entonces vamos a leerla una vez más y ver dónde se encuentra en el Brit HaDasha.
If he is poor, you're not to go to bed with what he gave you as collateral in your possession. Okay, so where is that found in the New Testament?
¿Dónde se encuentra esto en el Brit HaDasha, Nuevo Testamento?
Go to Luke chapter 18, verse 22.
Vamos a leer en Lucas 18, verso 22.
Luke chapter 18, verse 22.
Una vez más, Lucas 18, verso 22.
And on our Yeshua tubes on Shabbat, we had 527 people.
Y estuvimos en Yeshua Tube, tuvimos unas 575 personas.
And also to let you guys know, in case the internet does go down,
Y para dejarles saber a todos que si el internet se cae,
we now have a conference phone call that you can call into.
también tenemos una llamada de conferencia en la cual usted puede conectarse con nosotros vía telefónico.
All right, so Luke chapter 18, verse 22, on hearing this, Yeshua said to him, there is one thing you still lack. Sell whatever you have, distribute the proceeds to the poor, and you will have riches in heaven. Then come follow me. Okay, so Yeshua is saying, distribute the proceeds to the poor, like give to the poor, give them what extra you have.
Y aquí Jesús está dando el ejemplo y diciendo que debes de devolverle o darle a los pobres lo extra que tienes.
So in the Brit HaDasha, in the New Testament,
En el Nuevo Testamento,
you need to understand how God looks at the poor.
tienes que ver cómo el Eterno mira a los pobres.
Okay, so once you had the law that we just read from the Torah,
Una vez entiendas y leas la ley que está en la Torá,
returning the collateral to the poor person,
y devolviéndole la posesión que le corresponde al pobre,
you can then understand what it means to distribute the proceeds to the poor when Yeshua said it.
entonces vas a entender lo que Yeshua estaba diciendo cuando dijo que le entregaran, que le dieran a los pobres.
Okay, any questions on this law?
¿Alguna pregunta sobre esta ley?
I can't see everybody on my screen, so You can unmute yourself, and if you have a question, just let me know.
Y no, como no puedo ver a todos por aquí en mi pantalla, si tiene alguna pregunta o comentario, puede abrir el micrófono y dejarme saber, por favor.
All right, let's go on to the next category. Category number 13 is employees, servants, and slaves.
Y la categoría 13 es la de empleados, sería trabajadores, empleados y esclavos, siervos.
In the law, in the Torah, in the laws of God,
En la ley del Eterno, en la Torah,
if you have a business, you need to really read the Torah,
si tienes un negocio deberías de leer realmente la Torah,
because there's many laws that Jehovah gave us for business owners.
porque hay muchas leyes que el Eterno nos dio para tener un buen manejo de las empresas, de los negocios.
And also, he gave us laws for if you're an employee.
Y también entregó leyes por si eres empleador.
Okay, so in this law, we're going to go, if you're turning your scriptures to Leviticus 25, verse 42 and 43.
Y vamos a ver en esta categoría Levíticos 25, versos 42 y 43.
We're going to be going over a law about if you're a boss, if you're a manager.
Y vamos a ver en esta categoría si eres lo que tienes que hacer si eres un encargado o un jefe de algún puesto.
Or even if you're an owner of a business, how you're supposed to treat your employees.
Y también si eres incluso el dueño de la empresa, cómo debes de tratar a tus empleados.
Okay. Leviticus 25, verse 42 and 43 says, "For they are my slaves, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. Therefore they are not to be sold as slaves. Do not treat him harshly, but fear your God," or fear your Elohim. Okay, this law that we're looking at is verse 43.
Y esta ley en particular que estamos viendo está en el verso 43.
That as a boss or an owner, you're not to treat your servants harshly.
Y como dueño o manager o administrador de una empresa no debes de tratar a los empleadores o a los empleados con dureza.
The word harshly is H6531. In the Hebrew, it's the root word perek.
Y la palabra para dureza o crueldad en este sentido está en la palabra en hebrea H6531 que dice per.
And it means harshness or severity.
Y en la traducción dice dureza, severidad o crueldad.
Or cruelty in the English also. So you're supposed to be, your employees are supposed to work for you.
El empleado debe de trabajar para ti.
But you're not to treat your employees, with cruelty. Like, would you want yourself to be treated that way?
Y no debes de tratarlos con crueldad, como tienes que, tú no querrás también ese acto contigo, ese maltrato.
So as a business owner, you need to think about this before opening up a business.
Y como dueño de una empresa, tienes que pensar en todo esto antes de abrir el negocio.
Or if you do have a business,
y si tienes el negocio, la empresa,
and you have an employee that's not doing their job,
y tienes una persona que no está haciendo su trabajo,
you have rules that Jehovah gave to you as a business owner.
tienes reglas que el Eterno te ha entregado como una persona de negocios.
Now, before you as an employee get all like, see, you're wrong, you're not supposed to treat me this way.
Entonces, así, por ejemplo, antes de que el empleado te diga, mira, tú estás equivocado, no debes de tratarme así.
Ask yourself, are you really working as good as you're supposed to be working?
Y antes de que le digas eso a tu jefe, analiza si estás haciendo lo que debes de hacer como un empleado.
Okay. So, the law for this law, it is for the manager or the owner.
Esta ley es para el administrador o el dueño.
Okay, so let's see where we find this in the Brit HaDasha. In the New Testament, turn to Colossians 4, verse 1.
Y vamos a ver dónde se encuentra esto en el Brit HaDasha, Nuevo Testamento. Vamos a ver en Colosenses 4:1.
Colossians 4, verse 1.
Colosenses capítulo 4, verso 1.
And sorry for not streaming on YouTube tonight. Now we can talk about the Rittenhouse case.
Now that we're here, right?
This case that's going on, it proves why we need God's laws even more.
Y en este el caso que está aconteciendo en estos tiempos, prueba por qué debemos de seguir la Torá más que nunca.
Because when we remove God's laws, then people will do what's ever right in their own eyes.
Porque cuando removemos la ley, las personas hacen lo que quieren en frente de sus ojos.
We'll probably be talking about that on the Sledgehammer show.
Quizás vamos a hablar sobre esto en el show del martillo.
All right. So, how you're supposed to treat your employee?
¿Cómo debes de tratar a tu empleado?
Masters, treat your slaves justly and fairly. Remember that you too have a master in heaven. That's now that you understand the law.
Ahora que entiendes la ley,
This opens up what Shaul was writing about in Colossians.
esto abre más o aclara lo que realmente estaba hablando Pablo en Colosenses.
Because he's saying that we have a master in heaven.
Que está diciendo que tenemos un amo o un señor en el cielo.
Would you like Yehovah to treat you the way you're treating your employee?
¿Quisieras que Jehová el Eterno te trate como tú tratas a los empleados?
Would you like your master to hold things against you like you're holding against your employee?
¿Quisieras que el Eterno retengas contra ti de la misma forma que tú retienes cosas contra tus empleados?
So let's read Colossians 4 verse 1 again.
Vamos a leer una vez más en Colosenses 4:1.
Masters, treat your slaves justly and fairly. Remember that you too have a master in heaven. Amen. So imagine if Jehovah were to treat us how we really should be treated.
Imagínense si el Eterno te tratara de la forma que realmente deberíamos ser tratados.
Okay. Would any of us be alive today?
¿Será que estuviéramos vivos en el día de hoy?
You know, if you were gossiping, even as a little kid, about another little kid, the Lord would want him to deal with you the way you dealt with them.
Incluso si tuvieras usted, por ejemplo, chismeando y esas cosas, hablando de los demás, ¿será que te gustaría que te tratara el Eterno de la misma forma que tú tratas a los demás?
Amen. Do I have an amen for that one?
Amén.
Anybody gonna want to question or comment about this Colossians thing now that you're looking at it in light of God's laws?
Preguntas o comentarios ahora que ya puedes ver Colosenses ya iluminado de la forma por la Torá. ¿Quiere alguien hacer algún comentario o pregunta?
All right, you guys are going to be quiet again for Bible study. All right. Well, it's a good thing I got a lot to go over. All right, let's go to the next category. Category 14, vows, oaths, and swearing. We completed that.
Hemos completado ya esta categoría 14 que habla de votos, compromisos y juramentos.
All right, let's go to category 15, the sabbatical and jubilee years.
En la categoría 15 vamos a ver el sabático y el año del jubileo.
So let's go back in the Torah to Vayikra 25, verse 4 and 5.
Vamos a ver entonces, volvamos a Levíticos, capítulo 25, verso 4 hasta el versículo 5.
Leviticus 25, verse 4 and 5.
Levíticos 25, verso 4 y 5.
This law is about not gathering the fruit of the trees on the Shabbat, on the Shemitah.
Y esta categoría se trata de no recoger los frutos en ese año de ese año sabático.
But in the 70 years, a Shabbat of complete rest for the land, a Shabbat for Yehovah, you will neither sow your field nor prune your grapevines. You are not to harvest what grows by itself from the seeds left by your previous harvest. You are not to gather the grapes of your unintended vine. It is to be a year of complete rest for the land. Okay, so the key for this law is in verse number 5.
La clave de esta ley está en el versículo 5.
So let's go back to verse number 5.
Leamos una vez más el verso 5.
You are not to harvest what grows by itself from the seeds left by your previous harvest. You are not to gather the grapes of your unintended vine. It is to be a year of complete rest for the land. Okay, so the key is harvesting.
Y la clave es la cosecha, el cosechar.
Okay, like when you harvest the whole field, you're usually doing it for sale.
Cuando ciegas todo el terreno o cosechas todo el terreno, lo haces como con propósito de venta.
Okay, so let's first, before going back to that, let's look at the word complete.
Antes de que continuemos, vamos a ver la palabra completo.
It is H7677. It is the Hebrew word Shabbaton.
Y la palabra completo es el código en hebreo H7677 y es la palabra Shabbatón.
Definition number 1 is Sabbath observant.
Y la definición número 1 se define como la observancia del Shabbat o Sabbath.
Day 2 is weekly Sabbath.
Y la definición número 2 es el sábado o el reposo semanal.
And then definition number 3 is Day of Atonement.
Y en la definición número 3 es el día de la expiación.
Okay, so when this happens, when the Shemitah happens,
Cuando ocurre la Shemitah,
okay, the first part that we look at in what can and we can't do to the land.
la primera parte que vemos es qué podemos y qué no debemos de hacer con la tierra.
If it's like a Shabbat,
Si es como un Shabbat o un reposo,
okay, you're not doing your regular work.
no puedes hacer tu trabajo ordinario.
So you're not planting and, fertilizing and all that other stuff that you would do normally to your farm.
No vas a estar trabajando la tierra, ni fertilizando la tierra, ni haciendo ningún tipo de trabajo en la tierra, lo cual haces con regularidad.
But on Shabbat, we still eat, right?
Pero en el Shabbat aún así comemos.
Okay, so if something is growing, can we pick it to just eat from it?
Si algo crece, ¿será que podemos tomarlo, cogerlo para comer?
Now remember in the Brit HaDasha, Yeshua, the Pharisees yelled at Yeshua for picking heads of grain on the Shabbat, right?
Y recuérdense que en el Brit HaDasha, Nuevo Testamento, los fariseos estaban enojados con Yeshua porque él estuvo cogiendo de la siembra para comer.
Now, do we believe Messiah would have broken the law?
¿Será que el Mesías iba a quebrantar la Torá o la ley?
No, he would not have broken the law, correct?
Es correcto que él no iba a quebrantar la ley.
So why could he still pick the heads of grain and eat them on the Shabbat?
¿Por qué será que podía tomar los granos que habían en la plantación y comérselos,
because he wasn't harvesting.
porque realmente no estaba haciendo una cosecha.
Harvesting requires a basket.
Para cosechar se requiere de canastas.
If you're just putting in your hand and then going like this to get the wheat, you can do that.
Si él los recoge con sus manos y los prepara para comérselo, no hay problema con eso.
Is everybody understanding what he's doing there?
¿Será que todos pudieron entender lo que Yeshua estaba haciendo ahí?
Any input there, Rabbi Yehoshua?
Yes. We did a Shemitah when we brought the land. We let it rest, and it's very important to do that because the benefit that you gain when you do that in the land is big. It's something that is not even explained. Now that the Lord has to explain it, but he put it, because he's extend the law of the Shemitah further, we can see what is the benefit. But when we did that, we saw that for the whole year you be able to study even the places. So because farming, you require to understand the light of the sun, where it comes, where you got shade and where not, what type of plant supposed to grow with sun, fully sun or in shade. And so this Mitah year is not only for to abandon the land, but it's also to understand the land, to let it rest, and to see, to make a plan for a year. You can make a plan during the time that the land rests at the same time. So about Yeshua and picking the it's involved also the fact that he's not broken any law, because also even that is, it says right there not to harvest. You explain it very, very good, Ralph, when you mention that harvest is the part where you make business of it, and everybody is supposed to understand that particular part. I know pretty much there's people that take that verse to accuse Yeshua, and of course Yeshua defending himself very good because he also mentioned that David get to the temple and he gets something that he's not supposed to. So he make the contrast. He says, well, there's things that you're not supposed to. Even like that, the Lord has mercy of David. But this particular topic that I'm doing is not part of the law. It's not against of the law. So he wasn't breaking the commandment. But he pointed to David that he was breaking the commandment, but the Lord has mercy because it was his anointed one. And he was hungry. So there's things that you can do helping on Shabbat. And there's also this particular part of you can eat on Shabbat, even if you can pick it from the tree, but not sell it. Because right there you're working. So it's very nice that if everybody can understand the what involved the Shabbat and what involved the regular weekday.
Yeah, the other part is if you got berry bushes growing, you can pick it off. You can pick them and put it in your hand and eat it, right?
Si tienes otra parte especial, es que si tienes diferentes árboles, puedes tomar de esos árboles y comerlos.
But you're not harvesting to bring to market. That's the big key.
Pero la clave principal es que no lo vas a recoger para entonces hacer un mercado de ello y venderlos.
Any questions or comments about this Torah?
Luis tiene una pregunta o comentario.
Okay, so what?
Wait. Louis was going first.
Oh,
Sorry.
Say if I was to buy, like
You got Lewis. You got to get in front of the microphone.
Okay,
It's
say
hard to-
if I was to buy land and it's the year of harvest, that means I can't touch the land until it's over. It's for the next year, right?
Well, okay. The question is if you buy a piece of property,
Y la pregunta es si compras o obtienes un terreno.
if you're buying the property from somebody who is following the Torah,
Si compras el terreno de una persona que sigue la Torah,
then you ask them what year they're in for their cycle.
entonces le vas a hacer la pregunta de en qué año está en el ciclo del reposo de la Shemitah.
But if you're buying the land from a pagan,
Pero si compras el terreno de una persona que no guarda la Torah,
then you give it the full year rest when you move in.
entonces le das un reposo el año completo en el mismo momento en cual te mudas.
Okay, because then that's how you start your cycle. You start with the Shemitah year as 7, and then go another 6.
Entonces ahí comienzas y le das el primer año de reposo y haces entonces como el séptimo. Sería el primer año de reposo y los otros 6 años para ti.
Okay. All right. Now, Maureen, sorry.
It's all right. So what if you just have like personal garden, like a personal garden? You don't sell your food, you just grow to eat.
Que la pregunta es, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
La pregunta es qué tal si una persona tiene un jardín personal y solamente hace crecer alimentos para consumo propio.
You still follow the Lord's rules.
Aún así vas a continuar siguiendo las leyes del Eterno.
Because he's talking about the land resting. Even if it's a garden, it's still let the land rest.
Right. So go ahead.
Porque está hablando de dejar la tierra reposar. Entonces, pues vas a consumir lo tuyo y cuando llegue el tiempo, dejarás la tierra descansar.
So you can still pick to eat. You just can't gather it up to can.
Correct. Correct.
Sí, entonces solamente puedes tomar para consumo propio, no puedes cogerlo para venta en ese tiempo de reposo.
All right, let's see.
Ralph, can I say another part?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, and that means that you remember you picking from the garden, but the garden is producing what you already planted. But you cannot manipulate the garden like, okay, let me replant it, because then you are working the land. So it's a little tricky because if you have, for example, a greenhouse, then it's already out for pretty much in some pots. You don't have it in the ground, but it's like kind of almost the same thing when you are in the Shemitah trying to manipulate things, because if not, your mind going to start making things for yourself. You're going to say, well, the greenhouse is not in the ground, so let me put it in the pot, let me do this, and then you start doing things extra, and then you're never going to let that particular ground, that particular earth rest. So we got the what it makes produce of the ground is the living earth. If not, you have to use compost and stuff like that. So it's like a kind of tricky. But if you let the land rest, you see things. You receive also rain. It's something like it's connected to Sukkot as well. So it's like a lot of stuff together. So because you let the land rest and then if it's, I know this isn't, we just checking point by point, verse by verse, and we not extend it too much. But the Shemitah, we can understand also why the Lord rebuke and kick out from the land of Israel us, the Jewish people, because people forget about this, don't let the land rest, and then for years and years, and he 2,000 years resting, now we back. But that was because of the sin, because we don't keep the law. So Shemitah is deep.
But the other part about letting the land rest
La otra parte de dejar la tierra de descansar,
is even if you put fertilizer into the ground each year,
incluso si colocas fertilizantes cada año en la tierra,
it's not going to do nearly as good as just letting it rest for 1 year.
no va a hacer el efecto necesario como si lo dejaras descansar en su tiempo.
And then one of the other laws is on the 49th year,
Y la otra ley que abarca esto en el año 49,
you have to let the land rest the 49th and 50th year.
debes de dejarla descansar por la 49 y el año 50.
So the Lord said, I'm going to give you enough food for 3 years.
El Eterno ha dicho y ha prometido darte suficiente por 3 años.
So when you do what the Lord tells us to do, you do what Jehovah tells us to do,
Cuando haces lo que Jehová el Eterno te comanda de hacer,
there is nothing that is better than following his commandments.
no hay nada mejor que seguir sus mandamientos, sus ordenanzas.
Because the yield that the ground is going to give after a rest is going to be twice as much as every other year.
La producción que va a crear la tierra va a ser aún mayor que la que ha hecho después que la dejas descansar, mayor de lo que producía anteriormente.
All right, so let's go to the Brit HaDasha and find the sabbatical year in the Brit.
Vamos a ver en el Nuevo Testamento dónde podemos encontrar este año de reposo, el año sabático.
Go to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, verse 1 and 2.
Vamos a leer en Marcos 12, versículo 1 y 2.
Mark chapter 12, verse 1 and 2.
Marcos 12, verso 1 y 2.
Yeshua began speaking to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a pit for the winepress, and built a tower. Then he rented it to tenant farmers and left. When harvest time came, he sent a servant to the tenants to collect his share of the crop from the vineyard. Amen? All right, so Yeshua, the people that Yeshua the Messiah was talking to,
Las personas que Yeshua el Mesías estaba hablando
would have understood the 7-year cycle and the 50-year cycle.
ya sabían o iban a comprender que le está hablando de este tiempo del año 50 o jubileo.
So when Yeshua said in verse 2 about the harvest time,
Cuando Yeshua está hablando aquí del tiempo de la cosecha o
and collecting a crop,
y la colecta del arado sería.
the man who rented it out would know he wouldn't collect it on the 7th year.
Y iba a saber que esa persona no iba a hacerlo en el año séptimo, no iba a hacer ese tipo de trabajo en el séptimo año.
Okay, so and then he planted a vineyard, he knew he wouldn't collect it for 5 years.
Y si iba a colectar la de la viña, iba a hacerlo por 5 años.
Because when you plant a vineyard, you don't collect for 5 years.
Y cuando plantas un viñedo no colectas hasta el 5º año.
So he wouldn't have sent the servants until the time of the harvest for the vineyard.
Entonces no iba a mandar a hacer pues a reclamar lo de la viña hasta el tiempo preciso.
Everybody understand that?
¿Todos entienden esta parte?
All right, let's start the next set of slides. Let me bring that up. All right, so now we're going to category number 16.
Vamos a ver ahora la categoría 16.
the court and judicial procedures. Let's talk about the Rittenhouse case.
Y ahora vamos a ver en este categoría 16, hablando de cortes y procedimiento judicial.
You're not to tamper with the jury. That's called a mistrial. Oh. You're not to threaten the judge. That's called a mistrial.
No puedes tratar con el juez, eso se llama, ¿cómo se llama? Juicio. Es mistrial. Sería falso juicio.
I have no idea in Spanish. All right, so there's a whole. See, in Jehovah's law, there's groups of laws for every aspect of our lives.
Y en la Torah del Eterno hay de todo tipo de separación, de categorías, obviamente, para lo que es este sistema de juicio, vamos a decirlo así.
And when we remove these laws from our society,
y cuando removemos la ley de nuestra sociedad,
that's when we have the most problems and the society collapses.
Eso es cuando tenemos más problemas y nuestra sociedad colapsa.
When you don't have the Bible as the foundation of your country, of your society.
Cuando no tienes la palabra como el fundamento de nuestra sociedad,
then people will lie.
Las personas van a mentir.
They will do whatever is right in their own eyes.
Van a hacer lo que sea que ellos crean que se ve correcto.
Okay, so let's read this law and turn to Exodus, Shemot, chapter 22, verse 4.
Entonces vamos a ver, comprender esta ley. Vamos a Éxodo 22, verso 4.
I think we'll be talking about court procedures in the Sledgehammer show tomorrow night.
Mañana estaremos hablando de procedimiento judicial en el show del martillo.
Exodus 22, verse 4 says, if a person causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over or lets his animals loose to graze in someone else's field, he is to make restitution from the best produce of his own field and vineyard. Amen. All right, so in this law,
en esta ley,
when you let your animals, if you destroy, let's put it this way, if you destroy somebody else's field,
si usted destruye la propiedad o el terreno de otra persona,
whether it's you or your animals,
ya sea que sea usted o un animal de tu propiedad o de tu que sea tuyo,
you have to make restitution.
Usted tiene que hacer restitución o de pagar.
And if you can't make restitution,
y si no puedes hacer esta restitución, este pago,
then you become a slave. Then you become a slave.
Entonces te vas a tornar a ser esclavo.
For up to 7 years if you're another Hebrew person.
Si es para una persona que no es judía o que es judía sería o hebrea serían por 7 años.
Okay, so if people understood that, I'm sure if people were required to still do that today,
si a las personas se les requiriera hacer esto en el día de hoy,
then we would not have as much crime as we have in our country and in the world today.
No tuviéramos la cantidad de crímenes que hay en el mundo, en el país y en el mundo entero.
So you get caught stealing that car.
Si te agarran, por ejemplo, robándote ese automóvil,
and you destroy the car,
y destruyes el auto,
you got to pay that person back for their car, let's say $10,000.
Imagínense que sean $10,000.
And you don't have that $10,000.
Y no tienes esos $10,000.
You and your family get to be slaves for the next 6 full years.
Entonces tú y tu familia van a ser esclavos por 6 años.
All right. So you, in the law here, you have to make restitution from the best produce of your own stuff.
Y en esta ley aquí vas a tener que hacer restitución o devolver de las mejores cosas que tienes, de los mejor producto que.
How many people want to go back to this law?
¿Cuántos quieren volver a esa ley? I say I.
I am all in favor. Say aye.
I.
All right, let's see if we find this law in the Brit HaDasha.
Vamos a encontrar esta ley en el Brit HaDasha, Nuevo Testamento.
Turn to the last book of our Bible, Revelation chapter 18, verse 6.
Y vamos a leer en Apocalipsis, Revelaciones 18, verso 6.
Revelation 18, verse 6.
Apocalipsis, Revelación 18, verso 6.
Let's see what Yehovah or Yeshua is going to do to us, how he's going to pay us back.
Vamos a ver lo que el Eterno o Yeshua nos pagan aquí de regreso.
Render to her as she has rendered to others. Pay her back double for what she has done. Use the cup in which she has brewed to brew her a double-sized drink. This will be a mocha latte.
Esto sería un mocha latte.
You know, Mika mocha latte, Mika mocha latte.
Eso sería un Mika mocha latte.
You know, the double-sized drink, Mika mocha latte. You know, we should coin that phrase and send it to Israel.
No.
Say, I want a Mika mocha latte, please. Make it a double.
Yeah.
All right. So here, because the Lord gave us this law in Torah,
Aquí el Eterno dándonos hablando sobre su ley de la Torah,
he's got to make restitution.
que tiene que devolver o dar restitución.
And the Lord's going to pay us back double for what we've given him.
El Eterno nos estará pagando doble de lo que le estuvimos dando a él.
So we can expect a lot of craziness to start happening.
Entonces podemos esperar mucha locura que comience a acontecer.
When the country of Austria has now locked 2 million of its citizens in their own home.
Cuando Austria ya está teniendo estos 2 millones de personas presas en sus propias casas.
Because they wouldn't get vaccinated.
Y estas personas porque no se dejaron colocar las vacunas.
And Denmark has done the same thing.
Dinamarca está haciendo lo mismo.
Get ready, people.
Prepárense.
Because the Lord is going to pay us back for what we've done to him. In the double size, Mika mocha latte.
Mika mocha latte. El doble del pago por nuestra iniquidad.
Any questions or comments about the Mika mocha latte?
¿Alguna pregunta, comentario del Mika mocha latte?
Pumpkin spice. Go ahead. Somebody said something?
No, ¿qué es eso? Yo no entendí qué es eso. Chocolate, macalote. ¿Qué es eso?
It was Elva. She said she doesn't understand what is that Mika mocha.
I'll explain it to her in Spanish.
Hermanita Elva, que Mika mocha significa que quién es como usted, ¿verdad? En hebreo, quién es como el Eterno. Pero el rabino hizo una frase, pues una broma, diciendo que, hablando de la doble porción, y un latte es como un café, ¿verdad? Un cappuccino, un latte, y le está diciendo que sea doble. Entonces, para hacerlo grande, como Mika mocha significa que grande eres, él dijo Mika mocha latte, algo grande, pero eso es un chiste. Entonces está diciendo que así es que el Eterno va a devolver el tamaño doble, el pago a las personas que han hecho tantas barbaridades. Entonces es eso que está diciendo.
Because we see in verse 6, he's brewing it, so it's coffee.
I know, right? Porque está diciendo ahí que, bueno, en inglés es que combina la frase, porque brew es como colar, así como colar un café. Entonces, lo que está diciendo en el español, la versión es nuestra, es preparar, o preparar el doble de la sentencia.
All right, going on to the next category. Category number 17, we completed. That was injuries and damages.
Y en la categoría número 17 de las 34, que se hablaba de injuries.
Get hurt, dolor.
Yeah, same thing. It's that phrase in Spanish. Just give me a second. Maltratarse será. Un segundo. Lesiones. Ujú. Lo que es las lesiones y maltratos o heridas, ya se habló de esa categoría.
Okay, and if you missed any of the studies, go to our website, bethgoyim.org.
Y si te perdiste de alguno de estos temas, de estas categorías, puedes ver todo esto
And the other,
en bgmctv.org.
and the other 23 parts of this study are there.
Y el resto de las 23 otras categorías que ya vimos están ahí en bgmctv.org.
Let's go on to category number 18, property and property rights.
Entonces vamos a ver la categoría 18, que derechos de propiedad y propiedad.
Okay, so let's go back in the Torah to Devarim 22, verse 1.
Volvamos de una vez más a la Torá en Deuteronomio 22, verso 1.
Deuteronomy 22, verse 1.
Deuteronomio 22, verso 1.
You are
22.
not to watch your brother's ox or sheep straying and behave as if you hadn't seen it. You must bring it back to your brother, okay? So the law that we're looking at here is the end of the verse.
Lo que vamos a observar aquí es el final del versículo.
The law here is if you see let's say your brother, your somebody else's horse that's lost or an animal that's lost.
Es, por ejemplo, si tú has visto la propiedad o un animal del vecino que se le perdió.
And you know it's Moshe Cohen's mule.
Claro. Y quizás tú puedes ver que sea quizás el mulo o el caballo de Moshe.
Then you are obligated to return it back to your brother in the Lord.
Estás obligado a retornarlo a él, a tu hermano en el Señor.
Now, that can go also for somebody's wallet on the ground.
Eso también va a involucrar si fuera la billetera de alguien que está en el suelo, en el piso.
Now, if you find a $20 bill on the ground and you don't know who it belongs to, well, it must be yours.
Entonces, si por ejemplo te encuentras $20 y no hay nadie ahí que no sabes de quién fue que se le cayó, entonces esos $20 son tuyos. Thank you.
Okay. So, you look who's on the bill and you return it to that. Oh, it's George Washington. I can't. It's Ben Franklin. All right. So if it's somebody else's property, let's say it has a mark on the skin, like a branding on the skin.
Por ejemplo, que tiene como una marca que identifica que es la propiedad de alguien.
Then you are to return it.
Entonces debes de devolverlo a su dueño.
Okay. So let's see if we can find that in the New Testament in the Brit HaDasha.
Veamos si se puede encontrar esta ley en el Nuevo Testamento Brit HaDasha.
Turn to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 5 and 6.
Vamos al Evangelio de Mateo, capítulo 10, versos 5 y 6.
Matthew, chapter 10, verse 5 and 6.
Mateo, capítulo 10, versos 5 y 6.
Give you a second to find that.
Voy a darles un segundo para que encuentren el versículo de Mateo 10, 5 y 6.
Also, subscribe to our Telegram page.
También puede suscribirse a nuestra página de Telegram, en esa aplicación de Telegram.
These 12 Yeshua sent out with the following instructions. Don't go to the territory of the Goyim, and don't enter any town in Shamron, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay, amen. So what he's doing is he's going to find them to bring them back to the father, the owner.
Y esto lo que está haciendo es que está buscando lo que la propiedad del padre, del dueño.
This is why Yeshua didn't go to the Gentiles.
Es por esta la causa la cual Yeshua no fue a los gentiles.
Although everybody belongs to Yehovah,
Que todos pertenecen al Eterno.
the Messiah was only here to come to the house of Israel.
El Mesías vino para acá solamente para buscar la casa de Israel.
So he sent those Jewish men
Envió a esos judíos, esos 12 judíos,
to go gather and find the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
para juntar y traer de vuelta a esas ovejas perdidas de la casa de Israel.
Because he was going to get them to return the lost property back to its owner.
Porque estaba trayendo de vuelta al dueño de la propiedad lo que se le había perdido.
Any questions or comments about this?
¿Pregunta o comentario sobre esto?
What? All right. Next category, category 19, criminal laws. We've completed that for the Rittenhouse case.
Y entonces ya completamos esta categoría 19 que habla de las leyes criminales.
And the law of God does say you can defend yourselves.
Y la ley del Eterno dice que aprueba que te puedes defender.
And the law of God does say you can protect your property.
Y también habla de que puedes proteger tu propiedad.
And even Yeshua says in the Gospel of Luke, go buy a sword.
Incluso Yeshua habló en Lucas, ve y compra una espada.
All right, let's go on to category number 20, punishment and restitution.
Y en esta categoría 20 estamos hablando de restitución y castigo.
Let's turn to Bamidbar, Numbers 35, verse 24 and 25.
Y vamos a leer entonces Números 35, versos 24 y 25.
Numbers chapter 35, verse 24 and 25.
Números 35, versos 24 y 25.
Everybody enjoying this study?
¿Están todos disfrutando del estudio?
I think next week we'll go over a little bit about Hanukkah.
La semana que viene vamos a hablar un poco de Hanukkah.
Then the community is to judge between the one who struck him and the next of kin avenger accordance with these rules. And the community is to save the killer from the next of kin avenger. The community is to return him to the city of refuge which he fled, and he is to live there until the Kohen Hagadol, who is anointed with the holy oil, dies. All right. So this is talking about somebody who accidentally murdered somebody.
Y esta ley está hablando si una persona accidentalmente mata a alguien.
Now, in this verse 24, we're talking about the next of kin avenger.
Y en ese versículo 24 es de unas personas que pues anda buscando, sería venganza.
God, Yehovah does allow you to avenge somebody's death.
Y el Señor sí permite que vengas a una persona que falleció o que ha sido asesinada.
If the person is a believer.
Si esa persona fue una persona creyente.
If the person is living a pagan lifestyle.
Si una persona está viviendo una vida pagana,
then the rules of the Torah don't apply to that person because they're not part of the community.
esa ley no estaría aplicando porque esa persona no estaba creyendo o viviendo de acuerdo a las escrituras.
These rules that we're talking about are for a community that follows God.
Y esas leyes que estamos hablando aplican para una comunidad que acepta las leyes del Eterno.
All right, so the law here is verse number 25.
Aquí en el versículo 25,
And let's read verse 25 again.
vamos a leer una vez más, verso 25.
And the community is to save the killer from the next of kin offender. The community is to return him to the city of refuge to which he fled, and he is to live there until the Kohen HaGadol, the high priest, who is anointed with the holy oil, dies. Okay, now the way the law is set up,
La forma en que está establecida esta ley
is that before it goes to trial, the person can flee to one of these cities of refuge.
de que antes de que se ocurra el juicio, esta persona puede huir a este lugar de refugio.
And that person can wait there in the city of refuge until the trial.
Y esta persona puede quedarse ahí hasta que le cante sentencia en el juicio.
Now, if the people have found him not guilty,
Si las personas lo encuentran no culpable,
he has to return to the city of refuge which he fled to and live there the rest of until the Kohen HaGadol dies.
esa persona puede retornar hacia ese lugar de refugio hasta que fallezca el sumo sacerdote.
Any questions or comments about this law?
Yeah, Rev.
Sí,
It
señor.
could be hard. I mean, it's of course it's something serious talking about a city of refuge. It's like a kind of jail, but you are escaping. You're not allowed to live in your house that you used to live or used to grow up. But you make a mistake. Well, the other person, and this is talking about somebody that is innocent, but they make a mistake with certain tool or something happens that the other person pass away. It wasn't the intention of the guy to do something, but the hard part that I can read here is is about the Kohen Gadol. If imagine they just anoint the Kohen Gadol the next day or something, or the day before. This guy's gonna be forever there in that city. He's going to be, and that's the law. I mean, he can't argue or appeal for, hey, well, the Kohen just started yesterday, and is young because Aaron just passed away a week ago, and then Eliezer is a new Cohen, so he's got to be there for 50 years. I mean, not 50 years. We know the Cohen served for 30 years, but 30 years is a sentence. It's a penalty sentence right there. So it's
It's not that he can't leave his house. He just can't leave that city.
no es que no pueda salir de su celda o de su casa, es de esa ciudad de refugio que no puede salir.
He can get married.
It's a risk, yeah. It's risk if he go out because the family could kill him and no guilty because he's out of the limits. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we're talking about here is there's a law that if you have an axe,
Y entonces lo que estamos hablando aquí es una ley de que si tuvieras una hacha
and the axe head flies off and kills somebody while you're using it. ¡Woo!
y si la hacha se zafa o se sale de su sitio mientras la estás utilizando y golpea a alguien,
When an accident occurs and somebody dies, you get to flee to this city.
Si eso ocurre, que pasa ese accidente, puedes salir corriendo a esa ciudad y refugiarte.
Okay, but you should have taken better care of your equipment.
Pero el punto está en que debes de pues tomar cuidado con tus herramientas, las cuales estás utilizando.
Okay, so let's see if we see punishment and restitution in the Brit HaDasha.
Vamos a ver si podemos ver castigo y restitución en el Nuevo Testamento.
Turn to the book of Romans, chapter 13.
Vamos a leer en Romanos capítulo 13,
verse 2 through 5.
desde el versículo 2 al 5.
Romans chapter 13, verse 2 through 5.
Una vez más, eso es Romanos 13, versículo 2 al 5.
Therefore, whoever resists the authorities as resisting what God has instructed, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are no terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you like to be unafraid of the person in authority? Then simply do what is good, and you will win his approval. For he is God's servant. Therefore your benefit. If you do what is wrong, be afraid, because it is not for nothing that he holds the power of the sword, for he is God's servant. There is an avenger to punish wrongdoers. Another reason to obey, besides fear of punishment, is for the sake of conscience. Now you really understand what Shaul is writing about.
Ahora puedes entender realmente lo que Pablo estuvo hablando o escribió.
So let's look closer at verse 4.
Vamos a leer de muy de cerca el versículo 4.
For he is God's servant, therefore your benefit. But if you do what is wrong, be afraid. But it is not for nothing that he holds the power of the sword, for he is God's servant. There as an avenger to punish wrongdoers. So, this is interesting in light of what's going on in our country.
Es interesante leer esto a la luz de lo que está ocurriendo hoy en día en nuestro país.
Why do we have Biden as our president instead of Trump?
¿Por qué tenemos nosotros a Biden como presidente en lugar de Trump?
Well, God put Biden there.
El Eterno puso a Biden ahí.
No, he didn't. They stole the election.
No, el Señor no lo hizo, ellos robaron las elecciones.
Well, I agree they stole the election, but why did God allow it to happen?
Y yo estoy de acuerdo con tu punto, pero ¿por qué el Eterno permitió que aconteciera?
Because if we read verse 4 as the word of God,
Porque si leemos verso 4 como palabra del Eterno,
because wasn't Nebuchadnezzar the Lord's servant?
¿no fue Nabucodonosor el siervo del Señor?
Wasn't Pharaoh the Lord's servant?
¿No fue el faraón siervo del Altísimo?
Wasn't Pilate the Lord's servant?
¿Y Pilatos no fue siervo del Señor?
Wasn't Judas the Lord's servant?
¿No fue Judas siervo del Señor?
Wasn't diaper-wearing Biden the Lord's servant?
¿Y no fue el presidente actual que tenemos ahora siervo del Señor?
So they are the Lord's servant.
Son siervos del Eterno.
And then we're being punished, our nation is being punished for kicking God out.
Nuestra nación está siendo castigada por echar fuera al Eterno de la sociedad.
Because the first time the Freedom from Religion organization brought a lawsuit, we should have hung them from a tree.
Porque la primera vez que esta agrupación o este grupo de sociedad libre de religión colocó su ley, debimos de haberlo ahorcado ahí mismo.
But since we were allowing abortion and divorce, then
we'll let those people do what they want to do.
Pero como ya hemos aceptado el divorcio y el aborto, entonces se puede dejar hacer esas personas lo que quieran también.
Do you agree or disagree?
¿Usted está de acuerdo o usted no está de acuerdo?
Any questions or comments on this?
¿Pregunta o comentario sobre esto?
No questions or comments.
No hay preguntas ni
Question.
comentarios.
Okay, go ahead. Question. I think that was Ariadna.
So if you are allowed to get revenge based on what you just said, how will you get it? Like you will have to go to the new city that this person is and seek your revenge, or in what way you could seek your revenge, or can you explain me that a little bit?
Okay, the question is, how do you get revenge?
Y la pregunta fue, ¿cómo obtienes esa venganza?
Well, we don't get revenge because revenge is the Lord says him.
En realidad no tenemos venganza porque el Señor dijo, mía es la venganza, dijo el Señor.
But what we do is get justice.
Lo que obtenemos es justicia.
So the person that is in the city of refuge,
La persona que está en esa ciudad de refugio,
if he or she leaves that city,
si él o ella sale de esa ciudad de refugio,
then the next of kin of the person that was killed
entonces la persona que es más cercano a esa persona que está a favor de esa persona que fue asesinada,
can kill that person and it's not considered murder.
puede matar a esa persona y no se le va a condenar como si fuera un asesinato.
But America doesn't have cities of refuge set up in it any longer.
Entonces, pero Estados Unidos no tiene esas ciudades de refugio que sería el caso de refugiar a aquellos que huyen.
Originally, when the first settlers came here, they did set everything up according to the Bible.
Al principio, cuando llegaron a los que llegaron en ¿cómo se llama eso? Say what was the name of them, Rev?
When the first settlers came here, the pilgrims, peregrinos,
Cuando los peregrinos llegaron aquí, ellos establecieron el sistema exactamente como dice las escrituras.
okay, so in Israel, the Lord set up certain towns in every tribal area for cities of refuge.
Y en Israel el Señor estableció por sus ciudades y sus tribus ciudades de refugio.
And that's where the person could go until the time of their trial.
Y ese era el lugar donde la persona podía ir hasta el tiempo de su juicio.
Now remember, we can't seek revenge, we can't seek justice.
Recuérdense que no podemos nosotros mismos buscar en nuestras manos lo que es esa justicia.
In a biblical way,
En una forma bíblica,
if the person who was killed or murdered was not a follower of God or denied God.
si una persona que fue asesinada o muerta no seguía las leyes del Eterno o negaba al Eterno,
If they deny Yeshua the Messiah,
si ellos negaron a Yeshua el Mesías,
then they have to deal with Satan and his rules.
entonces ellos van a tener que lidiar con Satanás y sus reglas.
But if a person is a believer that gets murdered by a pagan,
Entonces si la persona es un creyente y fue asesinado por un pagano,
then we can apply God's rules.
entonces sí podríamos aplicar las leyes de Dios.
But if a person is a pagan and not following God's rules, they denied God's sovereignty over their lives.
Pero si una persona es pagana y negó o no vivía de acuerdo a las escrituras, negó la soberanía del Eterno sobre su vida.
Understand, Ariadna?
Yeah.
¿Entiendes?
So that's crazy because that kind of means that this person has been holding the grudge for so long and just kind of like waiting for the right, or kind of like spying on that person if that person leave that place of refuge, you know? That's crazy.
Well, if they're holding that, that's wrong for them to hold the grudge, because then they're not trusting that God is sovereign over the situation. Okay? If you've done wrong, the Lord has a perfect justice system. Okay?
Si has hecho mal, el Señor realmente tiene un sistema perfecto de hacer justicia.
All right, any other questions or comments about that one?
¿Alguna otra pregunta, comentario sobre esta?
Ay,
Go ahead, Elba.
sí, sí, es cierto, la palabra dice que el Padre dice, mía es la venganza, yo pagaré, pero digamos en las las leyes humanas que hay, digamos, en cada país, y digamos, bueno, viene alguien matan a un hermano mío, por ejemplo, y yo tengo el derecho de ir a los tribunales y que para que él pague también por eso que hizo, porque él tiene que, si una persona no es juzgada, ¿de qué manera él se va a restituir? Pienso yo, no sé si estoy en lo correcto o siempre vamos a esperar la ley eterna, sí, el Padre es el que realmente es el que nos juzga y todo, pero estamos hablando de gente que no es creyente, no lo ha hecho por, digamos, circunstancial, sino que lo ha hecho premeditadamente, que ha venido a matar a alguien, digamos, un hermano, y entonces está sujeto a las leyes de los hombres, pero también sujetas a las leyes de Dios. El Padre también sabe qué va a hacer con esa persona, pero me parece que es necesario que restituya en algo lo que él hizo, ¿verdad? No es que vamos a... Ya, hermano.
Sister was asking and saying was that you also mentioned that the Lord says that the vengeance is mine, so I will pay. But what happened if somebody, for example, come and even if it's pagan, like assassinate my brother, I could go to the lawyers, right, and a judge with a regular judge, and ask for justice. Can I do that? Because it's a situation that is already established. There's judges and there's regular thing. Even if it's not waiting for the judgment of the Lord directly, like the Bible says, but if I can go to a lawyer and trying for them to resolve, like cops and investigators to trying to resolve that problem. Can I?
Yeah, you can follow the secular the secular laws of the nation.
Sí puede seguir las leyes seculares en cuanto a justicia de la nación.
But when this nation disintegrates in the next few months,
pero cuando la nación se desintegre en algunos meses,
then if we establish our own country called the New Jerusalem, no.
entonces cuando establezcamos una comunidad nueva o una nueva Jerusalén,
then we're going to follow the scriptures like it, and the judicial system is going to be set up just like we see it.
Entonces vamos a establecer un sistema judicial exactamente como el que estamos viendo aquí en las escrituras.
Because it's the best system out there.
Porque ese va a ser de por sí es el mejor sistema que hay.
Okay. Now, if you're living under secular rules, then you have to follow the secular government.
Entonces, si vives en reglas como las que vivimos seculares, debemos de seguir esos rudimentos del gobierno y cosas que ya están establecidas.
But God wanted Israel to be set on his judicial system.
Pero el Eterno quiere que su ciudad, su pueblo Israel esté establecido o o dirigido por sus reglas.
Because you know where the only place that they're following rules like this?
¿Saben el único lugar donde siguen estas reglas como estas?
It's not Israel.
No es Israel.
It's the Muslims that are following these rules.
Los musulmanes están siguiendo esas reglas.
Okay? They're following the Torah closer than most of the Jews in the land.
Los musulmanes por lo general siguen más las leyes que muchos de los, o que la mayoría de los judíos que están allá en Israel.
Because in Israel, you had 2 gay woman rabbis get married.
Porque ya están incluso 2 mujeres lesbianas o rabinas lesbianas casándose incluso allá en Israel.
That's how LGBTQEIO friendly Israel is.
Esa es la forma de la locura que tiene Israel con el LGBT.
But you won't have that in Muslim countries. They throw gay people off roofs.
Pero eso no van a estar haciendo esa barbaridad homosexual o lesbiana con países musulmanes. Ellos los tiran de los edificios.
All right, any last questions or comments before we close in some prayer?
¿Algún comentario o pregunta antes de cerrar?
Sister Maureen.
So when the person who accidentally, kills somebody, goes and lives in the city of refuge, and then the Kohen Hagadol, he dies, the person's allowed to leave and he's safe?
Yes.
Okay.
The rule is when the Kohen Hagadol dies, he's released from his city of refuge.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? I think we definitely should go back to these rules. All right,
Yo creo que definitivamente debemos de regresar a estas reglas.
All right, let's close in some prayer. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings, eh? Thank you, Lord, for your incredible rules. They're so well thought out and so perfect, and this is the way our society should run. We intercede for our nation that's not following the rules, and for that very nice young man, Kyle. Give him justice, because we know that you love justice. So uncover any evil things that are going on, but free him from his confinement. Your name, Yeshua, and let him come to know you in your name, Yeshua. And everybody said, Amen. Shalom Aleichem, everybody.
Shalom. This is Messianic Rabbi Andrew Dinnerman. I would personally like to thank you for tuning in to the Remnant's Call each and every week. You can listen to the full message on our website, Bgmctv.org. If you have drawn closer to the King of Kings, learned more about Him today, we are blessed. If you are blessed by these messages, please consider a donation to our ministry. You can go to our website, Bgmctv.org. That's BETHGOYIM.org, and click on the donate button. You do not have to have a PayPal account to donate. All you need is a debit card. Once again, thank you very much for listening to The Remnant's Call.
If you have not taken your first steps to be born again, just ask God's help. Remember, it's His loving grace that has come to find you. No one is worthy or able to reach God, but God can reach us, and He's reaching out to you now. Just open your heart and let Him in. His arms are open, and the blessing of salvation and eternal life are waiting for you. Don't let it wait any longer.
Ya Adonai, panavoleka, vikuneka, Yisa Adonai, panavoleka, vayasem laka, shalom.
Shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord lift his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you and give you his shalom.
Shalom. My name is Messianic Rabbi Andrew Dinnerman, and I invite you to come to visit our congregation. If you are in the tri-state area, come out and visit with us on Shabbat. We are a congregation of Jews and Gentiles, living as one in the Messiah Yeshua. BGMC is a place of true worship. The focus never wanders from the Hebraic roots of our faith. Beth Goyim is rooted in the Word of God from Bereshit through to the book of Revelation. Messiah's strong words against man-made tradition are carefully recorded in Matthew 7. That is the reason we only follow the straight-up instructions found in Scripture. Truly, the way, the truth, and the life. If you're looking for a deeper walk with Adonai, come out for our Tuesday evening Bible study called Messianic Torah Time. Come, spend a day with us on any Shabbat. We start at 11 a.m. with the sound of the ancient Hebrew shofar. Next, we offer our King praise and worship in English, Hebrew, and Spanish. After worship, we review the headlines in the previous week's news from around the globe, especially news from the Holy Land, Israel. We don't just list the news headlines as current events, but we comb through the scriptures, searching for clues to understand what they mean and then to help pinpoint prophetically our current position on Adonai's clock. After digesting all that modern information, we leave the world behind as we journey with our Adonai deep into his eternal word, not with just one or two scriptures, but usually 7 or more scriptures. The spiritual nourishment and the richness of his kingdom become accessible to the ones who share this special time and seek them out. The day does not end there. Because Shabbat is so special to him, there is always so much more that our King desires to share. So instead of separating and leaving, we stay together as a family for potluck lunch and an afternoon study of our King's Word. We close the Shabbat together with the reading of the new week's parashah. That's the Torah portion. Even after those blessings, many of us just can't get enough. So the members bring prepared homemade foods to share while we all enjoy an uplifting movie together. If all that information is not quite enough, you can check out our website where you will find over 200 video teachings and biblical holy day studies. Under Messianic Torah Time, the Hebrew Roots button, you'll discover free studies on many different topics, including PowerPoint slide presentations. If Beth Goyim sounds like a place you'd love to visit, but you live outside the tri-state area, there is still a way to connect with us. We stream live on the internet on Tuesday, Thursday, and Shabbat. The website is www.bethgoyim.org. That's BETHGOYIM.org. Our phone number is 973-338-7800 or 978-2-YESHUA. That's 978, the number 2, Yeshua. Shalom.